Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be discussing how the reincarnated evolution process works. I'm doing this article now because I'm going to presume that these evolutions are going to be released in North America somewhat soonish, and this applies to all the awoken gods who will be receiving this new type of evolution. So there are some farmable monsters who have reincarnated evolutions, but they were not so much practical, they were more so just used for almost evolution materials for Miru. So, without further ado, a reincarnated evolution is a new type of evolution that occurs from an existing awoken evolution. In order to perform this, they have to be at max level, and it does provide numerous benefits, but there's also some drawbacks you have to be aware of. So I wish to take the time to discuss all those pros and cons, as well as just getting you familiar with the whole process, as well as helping you plan ahead of time, because it does need a bit of forethought beforehand. So one other thing that you might start seeing in maybe the next month or so is an R or an RE prefix in front of monsters' names. That just simply designates that they're a reincarnated evolution, because that's a lot easier to type than the whole giant word. So, what is a reincarnated evolution? Well, a reincarnated evolution occurs when a monster is at max level, and in the case of the rare machine gods, they are in their awoken form. This reincarnated evolution will increase their rarity, so the number of stars they have will go up. They gain a third typing, and they still retain their original actives. So that means you don't actually have to go skilling them up again. Unlike when they become awoken, they have a new skill, you just skill them up. In this case here, they retain their same active skill, so it is a little easier in that regards. Furthermore, you only can do these reincarnated evolutions if your monster is at max level. So, as a forewarning, in the above image, you can see here, a level 99 Awoken Minerva is able to be reincarnated into her reincarnated form. Now, those 5 masks are obviously consumed in the process. However, you are unable to actually reverse this evolution. It is a one-way arrow. You cannot go back. You cannot make Awoken Minerva, and you can't go back and make the other 2 types, so on and so forth. You're actually just stuck with the reincarnated evolution. So in the most cases, you want the reincarnated evolution, so it should be a no-brainer. However, just make sure you are certain you want that evolution and no one else. So just keep that in mind. In addition, their monster level, instead of being at 99 when they evolve, actually is reset back to 1. So it's like almost like a regular evolution when you think about it. Like she went to level 50 and then back to level 1. In this case, they're at 99 and then back to level 1. That is usually not too much of a problem, because most gods from the rare machine, at least for the regular pantheons, are a 4 million experience curve. However, with the reincarnated process, that experience curve jumps to 16 million. And 16 million is a hefty price to pay. And even though they may gain a lot of benefits, like a new leader skill, augmented stats, it's not justifiable unless you can actually feasibly level your monster close back to their max level. Like, get them to at least level 90 plus. Otherwise, you are going to be at a terrible loss for stats, and you're going to feel just kind of awkward at that point. So, obviously that sounds like a big drawback. Like 16 million is a huge investment, but there are plenty of benefits. Because, first off, every reincarnated monster is boosted to around 1,000 weighted stats. That's quite a significant increase. Instead of being, say, around like 800, 850, now they are at 1,000. That's a huge jump. That's like gaining like basically 150 to 200 plus eggs on your monster. That's huge. Furthermore, those stats give you more value from the latent Tamadras. So like the HP, attack, RCV latent Tamadras have more value because their stats are higher. Furthermore, the future all attribute or all stat latent, which boosts all 3 of them, will have even more value on those 1,000 weighted stats. In addition, when you're trying to team build, you actually have more wiggle room. You're actually able to tank bigger hits, you recover faster, deal more damage. Just everything is easier when you have more weighted stats. So in most cases, the weighted stats should be motivation enough, because with higher weighted stats, you obviously have more wiggle room, but there's also an improved leader skill. And a lot of these monsters had maybe outdated leader skills, or leader skills that weren't relevant in today's meta, and the reincarnated process does grant them a new leader skill that either will make them a strong leader, or at least provide them with a niche leadership role. You may not use them all the time, but at least it's there. It's another option you have to play around with. And finally, the reincarnated process, well, actually with the awoken process here, Minerva actually loses her god typing. Most cards actually lose their god typing completely, and that is unfortunate because teams that require gods obviously want the god typing. However, with the reincarnated process, that god typing is restored. Furthermore, if they already had the god typing, they actually just gain a third typing instead. But with that god typing being restored and the newly announced Monster Point Dragon evolutions, this is significant because those Monster Point Dragons all require god type subs. And now with these reincarnated monsters, you're actually able to have a god type sub with 1,000 weighted stats, and you can easily override their active through skill inheritance. That way you can take advantage of those tasty 1,000 weighted stats, the relevant awakenings, as well as filling out your team roster more easily because you may not have had weaker options. Now you actually have stronger options through the reincarnated process. So this is something great. This is something to keep in mind that like gaining this god typing back will open up doors for teams that they may have been closed off from beforehand. So one thing I want to still stress is that when you should not reincarnate a monster is when you're unable to max level it again. If you're unable to max level it again, you can't inherit it. You also are unable to really truly benefit because even though they gain more weighted stats, those stats only occur when they're at max level. So if you only get to like level 30, you're actually losing stats in the process. Another situation in which you would not want to reincarnate a monster is if you're using that monster for a particular subtyping on a rainbow team. Very niche situation, but something to keep in mind because their subtyping, subcolor usually changes through this process. And last but not least, monsters with those pad cross or pad X evolutions like Horus, Bastet, and Ceres, you may not want to necessarily reincarnate them if you're using those pad cross forms for something in particular. Again, niche scenario, but something to keep in the back of your mind before you make this commitment. So, in conclusion, like this whole reincarnated process is quite exciting. It breathes life back into the older monsters that may have lost their relevance through power creep. So this is great. It gives you a new chance to utilize them once again. It bolsters your team roster because they can be used more on more different teams, and it also gives players their goal to strive towards because 16 million experience is a little challenging to acquire, but if you do it, you feel a sense of accomplishment. So what do you think about this whole reincarnated process? Are you excited for it? Are you stocking up on your snow globes now? So on and so forth. So let me know in the comments below, as well as you can check out this whole article on my website. I'll link it in the description. So have a mantastic day and happy puzzling.